Welcome to DIYEasyCrafts.com, how to make a knife logo for a maker's mark. Now, making a logo can be pretty simple. Most people just use block letters, etc., and they have a dark logo, the engraved portion. I wanted something a little bit different. I wanted a kind of a two-tone logo that used both a positive and a negative image on the logo. So the process basically started on a graphic art program. I used Corel Draw, and I started out with just my last name, with the name Berg. And my original thoughts were going to be to have this name engraved, so the logo would cut out each one of those letters, and then you would engrave through it. But I wanted it to be knife related, so I added a knife to that logo. After I played around with a couple of do-it-yourself logos with cutting out templates, I decided I really wanted the name to be shiny rather than the negative. So I put that on a black background. In this case, it turned out to be a dragon head. And this was the start. So I went to a company, Marketing Methods, and I purchased, or I had them make up these logos. Now, I'm not advertising for them, it's just the company that I used. There's certainly a lot of companies out there that'll make the same type of product for you. They did a pretty good job though. I was very happy with the results. I was a little surprised. First off, they delivered them on sheets, and I fit a total of 6 logos on each sheet in 2 different sizes. What I was surprised about is these logos, or this logo material, is not sticky at all. I was used to cutting out logos out of a transparent film and then applying them to the knife and then etching with electrolysis. These logos don't stick to the blade. They're only adhered with a piece of Scotch tape. So there's a little bit of a learning curve involved in using them. I played around on some extra 1095 high carbon steel that I had. And I prepped the steel first, just like I would a knife. I sanded it. I only sanded it with a 400 grit paper. And then I cleaned it off, got all the grease off with an alcohol wipe. I let that dry, and then I attached, I had cut out one of these little one of the pieces of logo, from that gold film. Logo stencil is what I was trying to think of the name of. I applied it with a little bit of Scotch tape, and then I'm using a car battery charger. I experimented with different amperages, different amounts of time, different amounts of electrolyte fluid, and a different amount of pressure. What I came up with is I got the best results on this 1095 steel with 2 amps on the car charger and a very tightly wound damp piece of gauze. Just damp, not a lot of fluid, because you don't want the fluid to run underneath the stencil. After it's all done on this sample, it doesn't look all that good until you polish it. But once you knock off those rough edges and just repolish it with that same grit sandpaper or emery paper, I was very happy with the results. And here on the same sheet, you'll see a variety of different times that I tried it with different, like I said, different amperages, different amount of time, etc. Once I got the result that I wanted, then I felt pretty confident in trying this out on a knife. Getting back to what I was saying before, the final result was 2 amps with just a damp piece of gauze, not wet, not too wet at all, and you want to apply firm pressure to it. That firm pressure not only helps with the engraving, but it also prevents moisture from getting out under that film. It really just presses the surrounding film against the blade. So this knife is a folder that I made a few weeks back. I would normally etch before I put a knife together, but in this case this is the knife that I had, so I etched it afterwards. I prepped it with a little bit of 1500 grit emery. Then I wiped it off with the alcohol wipe to get off any grease. This is that same stencil. I've used it a number of times now, just in the experimental stage. So this is probably the 7th or 8th time that I'm etching with this particular stencil. I've got my battery
2 amps.
car charger or car battery charger set at 2 amps. I've got the positive lead clipped onto the knife. The stencil is firmly down. I put 2 pieces of Scotch tape on this one. And then I've got that piece of gauze wound up very tight, and it's really just the size of the stencil. This gets dipped into an electrolyte solution, and I'm just using salt water. A little bit of warm water, a little bit of salt. They say 2 tablespoons per quart, but I just poured a bunch of salt in there. I put the battery charger on, and I'm going to actually etch this real time on this video. So I'm going to apply firm pressure. I'm going to hold that for probably about 10 seconds. I don't want too much heat to build up, so then I'll give it a couple seconds to cool down. On this particular stencil, I'm going to move it a little bit so that gauze is actually etching the entire stencil. I'm going to etch for another 8 or 10 seconds. Lift it up for a couple seconds, put it back down. So I'm etching for a total time of about 30 to 40 seconds, depending on how deep you want the etch to be, and giving a few seconds in between. That's all the time it took. I'm going to turn off the battery charger. This particular one I really just unplugged from the wall. And now I'm going to lift that stencil film off the knife. And you can see that there's some moisture that has gotten underneath that film. And actually every time I do this I get a little nervous as to what the end result is going to be, or what the end result is going to look like. You certainly don't want to ruin a good knife project. And this one doesn't look all that good until you polish it. Just like with the sample pieces, I've gone back to that same grit, the same grit that I polished the knife with, which is 1500. And I'm going to go back over that, knock off all of those hard edges. Clean it up with a little paper towel. And there you have it. Very happy with the results. This is a pretty intricate logo. And this stencil did a really nice job in allowing me to transfer that and etch even the small lines of the knife, as well as even the eye on the dragon. It's hard to get it in focus with the video, but I'll take some still photos, or here you can look at some still photos showing the quality of the etch. And this is all a result of that stencil. A very easy process, but like I said, it does have a little bit of a learning curve. You definitely want to try it out on a couple of scrap pieces before you use it on a knife. And that's the finished result. I hope you liked the video. Please check us out on the web at DIYeasycrafts.com. If you liked this video or found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thank you very much.